I think that's what I've learned. Without the punctuation, without the highs and the lows, we forget.
Mm-hmm.
And if we forget, time disappears.
Hello and welcome to Unqualified Advice, an entertaining show for entertainment purposes. Join us as we talk about running our businesses, what we've been learning, and how we're applying lessons from academia and real life as entrepreneurs and investors. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Topics discussed represent opinions represented by parties with different circumstances than your own and should not be taken as advice. Any discussion of securities or other investments should not be relied upon as investment advice. Consult your personal financial advisor and perform your own due diligence. Podcast hosts, guests, and clients of Fig Social Capital may own positions in securities discussed in this podcast.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, Dan. So what have you been listening to this year?
Max Richter.
The answer blows me away. Max Richter.
Well, Spotify Wrapped came out, and I think sometimes these things like hit you in the face of like, oh, really? That's how it went last year.
I am in awe. I'm looking to figure out where my Wrapped is.
Well, I think it should be noted that there's a lot of inactive listening going on in my life now, right? Like I'll put something that's piano driven on and it might run for 8 hours. And it's very nice to have in the house. It's very calming. I think it's not that the kids actively enjoy it. I think it's a good part of the environment. And that mixed with some background music for jamming in front of screens and getting work done. I think that's how he arrived at the top of the list.
I was trying to figure out, is it it takes into all listening, not just active clicks, right? I was debating this with a friend because he was surprised at some songs that like weren't in his queue because he knew he heard them a ton that were just played ambiently. Mm-hmm. But you're saying that you're getting like your signal is saying, yeah, it is just all encompassing. So that helps settle that debate, I guess. I thought it would take in fact everything into account.
Yeah. Because like my wife's Wrapped is now all screwed up, right? It's like Frozen soundtrack and merry-go-round music,
You probably could, if you have a family plan, you probably could just set up
another account.
Like this is the family listening account.
Yeah, but then it's like.
But then you have to.
I know there are houses like this, but
then
we need another device like in the kitchen and another device in the car. Those are the two places it happens the most. And I don't know. I'm sure there's ways and people have figured it out, and I have spent zero time.
Isn't really that big of an issue.
I don't know. I think I told you before that like if my Spotify algorithm gets wrecked, I'm canceling the account. I don't need it anymore. I already have access to Apple Music, but there's no intelligence there because since like Spotify came out, I have never used it.
You're right.
I only recently paid for Apple One, so I would switch over because the what is it the moat would have disappeared quickly. Yeah,
that's interesting. I think that's probably true for I wonder how many. I think I feel the same way, honestly. If I think it's Spotify Wrapped that almost keeps me around every year in a way. Like I look forward to that every year. I honestly am sitting here surprised I haven't watched mine on my own. I don't know what mine even is.
Have you seen? They've done some like extra products on the Wrapped thing, right? Like that used to be just this. You got the playlist, and now it's like this playlist with this little video that you get to watch with some like statistics, and now the DJ feature will like hone in on your Wrapped for a while.
Yeah.
And then I have not listened to this, but there is a podcast about my Wrapped.
Yeah, I saw that
podcast. Yeah.
I saw when I just searched that there was like all these things for it now, and I was like, oh, I don't know which one of these I would even click on at the moment. They've really changed it. Really made it a part of their value offering to their customers, right? Where that is something I think we all talk about now with friends and coworkers, and it keeps them relevant and like title. Somebody said title to me the other day. I'm like, what's that? I had to think about it for a minute. But
Wait, Tidal what? Oh,
The music service Tidal.
Tidal. Yeah.
Yeah, Tidal. It's like, oh, I just signed up for Tidal. I'm like, Tidal, what is that? With the better music quality, and the better different artist pay structure, I suppose.
Oh, is that the other selling point?
I think so. Yeah, they're supposed to be a little more generous towards the artists, is my understanding, or the way
I'm really
it flows.
curious about that. I mean, maybe we should go into the economics of that one day just to know more, because I feel like, I mean, there is fraud in Spotify, right? And if there's fraud, then there's money to be made. So are artists not being treated fairly? Or is it just a comparison to CDs? Like, the economic structure's changed, period.
Now that you have, how much of that revenue are podcasts getting? Is it? I guess it's divided up by total listening time, right?
Why aren't we getting paid?
I don't know, Dan. I don't know if anybody listens to us on Spotify.
Yeah. We'll have to
I think you might need more than a few dozen downloads an episode.
Yeah, one day.
Though, thank you to those of you that are here. We appreciate it. I was thinking, for me, I couldn't think of. Let's preface this. Dan shared with me a link from.
He is, or she, I literally don't know. This is one that found me via the algorithm. I don't follow this person actively. I do now.
I want to circle back to that.
Okay.
Found you via the algorithm, but please continue.
Yeah. But I think this person is the leader, founder, or something or other of what's that app? Obsidian, which is like a very complicated note-taking app.
Okay, so yeah, Obsidian is a is it Markdown language based app essentially?
Good question. I used to know these things because I look at them all, and then I get really excited about using them one day, and then I pay for them, and then I never use them because I'm a constant mess.
So we're circling back around to the what we were discussing. We have this list of 40 questions from the creator, or one of the creators of Obsidian, that he asks himself. He or she goes by @Capano, Kepano, on Twitter /x.com. And there are these 40 questions that Dan shared the list, and it seemed like kind of an interesting year-end inventory, for lack of a better word, right? And so we decided to kind of tackle a few of them because we just thought they were putting a cap on our year here in 2024 and looking into 2025, and maybe making some resolutions and setting some goals for ourselves to help drive some personal improvements. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. And I also think it creates space for reflection on things that, I don't know, you're all busy. There's only so much mind space that you've, it sounds silly to say, forgotten that happened this year that you want to remember. Or maybe you're trying to actively avoid it and pretend it didn't happen. But it's good. It's a good time now to look back and with some distance, appreciate it or reflect on it.
Exactly. And that was one of the things looking this list over, and why we ended up talking about Spotify, is that one of the questions is,
what song will remind you of this year?
Yeah, what song will remind you of this year? And because I didn't go to a Tay-Tay concert, I don't have one. I don't I don't have any distinctive song that was that I'm going to be like, oh, that was a 2024. I could do that for some songs back in 2008 or 12.
Give me one.
It's 2008 T-Pain.
Or at least an album.
Low featuring T-Pain. Or from 2008. That's the one that immediately pops into my head. That Zuckerberg just redid with him, actually.
Wild.
It was him and his wife's jam. So Zuckerberg got T-Pain to re-record it with him for his wife's birthday or something. It was like,
it's good to be a billionaire.
Isn't it though? Zuckerberg, the most wholesome billionaire. Maybe not true. I don't know.
Depending on the season of life.
Yeah, depending on the season of life. What's another one? Actually, last year I could probably say LCD Sound System was probably an artist that will be carved in my head for 2023 for some weird reason.
Why 2020?
Just because that's when I kind of really like found them in a
Dove
way
in.
that like they really clicked with me.
You should have come to my wedding.
Well, it's funny. I think I had them on these playlists from that you shared with me from a decade ago or something, and they've been past my radar once or twice, and then it just finally, like, I don't know.
New York, I love you, but you're bringing me down. I love that song. Yeah, LCD Sound System. That's like a strong place in my heart for that group. I was going to go next after asking you that question was tying music to smell, or the other way around, frankly, smell reminding me of particular music. So I had this, like, one of my first cars was this 1990 Ford Bronco, and we found it for sale on the side of the road. And whoever owned it must have smoked like 18 packs a day. I got so much tar out of that thing. And every single time I cleaned it, I got more tar out of that thing, which is to say it had a very particular smell.
Yes.
And The Offspring, Conspiracy of One.
Okay. Yes.
Metallica.
That album. That's an album, right?
We'll take these. Yeah, it's an album. These will these things will take me back to that Bronco. Or if I smell something like that Bronco, it'll bring me back to those albums.
That's interesting. Okay, so
those are high school days.
That's
16.
I can picture that though. I think Campfire can kind of do that to me in certain ways, but
Campfire. Interestingly, I was with you, and Trevor and some, our usual crew there, out in the woods behind the apple orchard, and I split my thumb open pretty badly. And
I remember that.
I think Aaron had his car with the doors open, blasting Modest Mouse.
That sounds right. I remember this, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember everybody disappeared for a while to go tend to that. And like it was just myself and like Andrea hanging out down by the fire with like two other people, I think.
Yeah. That was a good night.
So
minus the injury.
Yeah.
I still there's the scar is still there.
Oh, I have another smell for you, or maybe a taste. Citronella oil.
Okay, where's that take you? For reference,
I need to find those
everyone. Sean and I used to breathe fire.
Yes, the old flame breathing circus act trick that we wanted to learn. It worked.
It worked just fine. Yeah,
worked just fine. Boys and fire.
Now I think about the things that I did, and I worry about my kids.
Right.
But yeah, no.
Thankfully they won't have access to the wide expanses that you did, probably in some ways.
Or like the forest fire danger is too high.
Yeah. I don't know.
There are no campfires here. They're not allowed. You have to bring gas.
Exactly. Have you heard of Osmo.ai? It's a company that is working to, you were talking about the sense of smell. They're working to digitize the sense of smell, essentially, and like be able to, I guess, somehow create, I'm guessing eventually smell-o-vision. I don't know what the end use product is going to be, but they've been, I saw Lux has been a backer of them. And I've been kind of interesting to see how they've been developing technology around, I guess, being able to, again, I don't know what the use case is. Like if you can say, here's the digital footprint of an aroma, and being able to port that 1,000 miles.
I can think of warfare applications.
Interesting.
Instead of a dog.
Yeah.
You're hunting.
Oh, because you could actually have if you have a digital sensor.
Yeah. Just stick it around the corner.
Yeah. Or
if positive, throw a flashbang.
Mm-hmm. At the all of your bags at TSA just now go past the smello sensor. I was thinking of trying to think of a positive application, Dan, not a nanny state application, but way to
nanny state. Yeah, I don't know. I like my planes to stay in the air.
No, I know. It's that would be a fine application of it. A good, I guess, a reasonably good safety application.
Something. I mean, it's the first thing that came to mind, and part of the reason my brain went there first is Lux. I know is not shy about their investments in sort of national security and safety and
Yeah, actually, that makes perfect sense.
real world hardware application kind of stuff. They
Yeah.
do some of the harder types of investing. So
Yeah, that probably makes way more sense than anything I had in my brain. I was picturing the Jetsons.
yeah. Well, I think well, it's funny. You and I were texting. What was it last night? It's like Sam Altman saying that like he's basically saying without saying AGI is coming in 2025, and then it's like we're in the information age. What comes after the information age?
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like? And these are like interesting questions to ponder and impossible to answer. But then I think about AGI and I'm like, is AGI complete? Like, because it can think, or does it need to be able to smell? Does it need to be able to taste? Does it need to be able to, and these other like ancillary things that seem like toys are actually going to become integral at some point.
I think it's going to be interesting in the way that it's going to offload a lot of useless thought processes that we spend a lot of time wasting stuff filtering through bad information on. Like as good as your spam filter can be in your email, you still get stuff coming in that you don't need. And eventually this is going to be the point where, hey, it's helping you focus on the things that are truly important so that you have time to focus on more on what you want to in your life, I think is what I think the cultural benefit we stand to gain from this is. But yeah, without the ability to have the sensors and to actually fully understand and understand a situation in the ways that a human does, and take in those little cues and synthesize them into a construct the way the human brain would.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's there, right?
Because
you need that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not that you need smell per se, but I definitely see where that would be an interesting. I mean, how you would incorporate that.
Well, I think that some of these demonstrations of like AI-driven robots, or even software-driven robots, making cocktails or whatever it is it's like, I'm not putting them in charge of making cocktails. I can put them in charge of washing dishes, but until they can smell
Exactly.
and know that the cocktail is made well or something, it's like, or
yeah, what's the metric by which you're judging the correctness of it, right? Like folding laundry. Easy.
Yeah, easy. But isn't one of the interesting features that we want out of this, right, is sort of a little bit of the humanness, right? Like if I give you a particular cocktail, it's like this robot can make old fashions, Negronis, and whatever, French 75s. But that's it, because like we had to load the recipes in, and if it finds out that it's out of Campari, then it doesn't know how to proceed, right?
Or can it ask you like, oh, well, you're ordering old fashioned. What kind of bourbon do you prefer? Why do you like that kind of bourbon? Have you heard of this one from this other? And you're lacking the service level of the exchange. Like you're not going to be able to replace that, right? That's where
maybe. I mean, some of that I feel like could be programmed in old school software too.
Oh shit, you're fucking right.
It's the well, I was really feeling like an old fashioned, but I think I'd rather go with tequila tonight. And then not working off of a library. Right? Like it actually draws connections. That to me is like the bigger thing about AI is like it's at least from our perception, thinking rather than regurgitating or rule-based actions.
Yeah, or just looking at the a mean reversion curve and saying, well, this is the average of what would happen here. It's not the
then we all just live in a world of the average.
Yeah, exactly. So
why do you go to nice cocktail places? To not get the average cocktail.
Yeah, exactly. And to have a experience that feels one-off and unique, and to
But then is anyone going to go to a robot?
No.
I don't know.
Well,
50 years from now, who knows, man?
I mean, probably in Vegas, right? There'll be some it'll be like it'll
be a novelty thing. Yeah,
it would start off as a novelty thing, right? That would be the first phase of it becoming that into the what we're. I'm thinking if we're in the information age right now, the next thing is the intelligence age, in my opinion. That's what we're moving to, is this layer of technology that is able to process information, synthesize construct itself a worldview, and act within it in ways that we want it to, or want it to. I don't know. want it to. That maybe that's the
Is it
problem.
acting on its own volition at that point?
Yeah, I don't know.
Neo found out.
I don't know. Anyway, that was I
Let's
don't
go.
know where that one question came from or took us to, but there you go.
Yeah, that all started
start
with
with?
what song
What were we listening to?
going to remind you of this year?
So there were a couple things I was noting. You know, it's like I don't have good answers for what's a date you'll remember from this year. Is there a date that is ingrained in your head that you'll always remember?
February 14th, 2024.
Oh, why that?
I had my prostate removed. And I lived, which is to say that there was an infection that could have killed me. So it came out. And it changed our family planning and, it changed our lives. It changed my family.
See, you have an answer. Damn. Yeah. I would never forget that either.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just, what is today? December 6th. I'm 3 days away from my anniversary of my first ER visit in my life. Yeah. Not to bring us down, but one of the questions is like, did you have an illness or something? And I was like, oh man, yeah. Illness, hardship, a particular date, like all that sort of tied into being sick for almost 4 months, like on and off. I don't want to make it sound like I was bedridden for 4 months, but I was in and out of the hospital for.
No, yeah, you were up and down,
4 months,
up and down. It was, I know trying to schedule stuff with you there for a while there was a challenge just because you weren't really sure.
I would just disappear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'd wake up and be like, well, it's hospital day.
Yeah. Not moving today. Man, that was, it's wild that was this year. That feels like it was years ago to me for some reason, but it was this year.
But it's been a wild year, man. In 2023, I said, 2024 is my year. And then it just was so not. And I'm really looking forward to this year ending.
I feel like I felt more of those years the older I get. It's like, let's get to the next one.
Wishing your life away.
Right. And it's not, I don't like that attitude.
I don't like it. I don't like that attitude either. I don't like it for you.
Yeah.
So how are you going to change it?
I don't know. Like,
what would change it? Is it a reframing? Is it in your mind? Or is it more external and you need to create some more demarcations in life of
it might be
appreciation?
I mean, that's a good, I wasn't expecting to think about this. Like and within the cycle of like work, everything is on that calendar year. So you get to Q3 and it's like, oh, we're working on these same freaking KPOs we've been working all year. They're not having the effect that we wanted to. Or this was a stupid goal. Why are we, can we just get to next year so we can work on something new? In that kind of way. I think a lot of it's tied to the way our annual schedule of project cycles or strategic goal cycles.
You don't have control over that. That's not something you can affect change upon, right?
So no, it's not.
Is there an area in your life that you could affect change that would help change this relationship?
I don't know. Like I look more forward now towards the end of the year than I used to because I started taking like time off at the end of the year. I think I need to traveling more periodically throughout the year and like having like more like things to look forward to in like signposts within the year would be a positive step. Where like sometimes, especially like since the pandemic, like or during the pandemic, it's like, oh, nothing going on at the end of this year. Let's just wait till the next year.
There's nothing going on at all.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, I guess maybe next year there'll be more going on.
Yeah. I mean, I was, so for sharing my perspective on this a little bit is like working from home with the kids around and having a fairly flexible life. So, Saturday and Sunday are definitely distinctly different days for me, but it really very quickly begins to feel like every day is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Despite the weekends, me being pretty disciplined with trying to keep the weekends be weekends. And that's not like, for me, it's a luxury or anything. It's like literally I need to spend time with the kids and be more present and involved. But yeah, I recently had a conversation with a team member and I was like, oh yeah, we talked about that like, a month and a half ago. Right. And she was like, no, it was in March. And I'm like, my relationship with time is broken. And that just happened a couple weeks ago. So that was like a realization for me. Like what I'm trying to say is like I kind of feel the same. I don't know that it is the same exactly for me, but there's this notion that like
so
it's a
you said something there. You said something there that my brain just latched onto the idea of this sameness, right? And that there's like we do have like, okay, it's Christmas time, it's Easter, it's 4th of July, it's Halloween, it's Thanksgiving, etc.
I think this is why people decorate.
Right? Yeah.
We like my household has never decorated, like almost ever, because it's always been lean. We're not going to spend the money. We have roommates. It's just a tiny apartment anyway. You know, there's like the list of excuses goes on. And this year is a lean year. So we don't really have decorate. We did a little bit. We did enough to make it feel like maybe it's a little festive in here. But walking around my house right now, I'm like, I think this is actually walking around a relative's house. I was like, this is why you spend a whole month and a half feeling like your house is completely different. Statement. It's more of a question. I'm still trying to circle around like how to help my, like you said, guideposts or sort of, things planted in the sand throughout the year. And
that like kind of, and it's not so much, it's not like events like things like, oh, it's this time of year, but it's more like I'm like giving myself more things in the future to like look forward and grasp towards, rather than just saying, I just want this year to be over, right? It's, oh, I'm looking forward to this thing I'm doing in November, or I'm looking forward to this thing that's going on in January, or rather than just wishing away the time, hoping that within the wishing away of it, that in itself improves it, which will not happen, right?
How much of the travel that you did this year was travel that you look forward to?
I mean, yeah, that's the problem. I don't think I traveled at all.
That's the problem, yeah.
I feel like there was something.
You came out here.
Yeah, there was that little trip out there, which was kind of, that was that was a nice little weekend.
Yeah, quick little thing.
And then I think other than that, that was really it. Take a drive anywhere? Yeah, no.
Yeah, from our side, like we've done some travel, but even like our little, I'm gonna sound like a spoiled something here. I think is that like we get to do a little bit of travel, but it's 100% family oriented, and then even our little trips into the mountains and stuff like that, it's nice. I don't want to give them up. However, it's also not like, it's not rewarding in the way that it used to be, right? Like you got out of your house, you got out of your routine. No, it's like you wait. The routines are harder because now it's like you are operating without a kitchen and you've got two kids that are really hungry, and it's like, yeah. So I don't think my wife likes my attitude about travel now, but it's completely changed.
It's interesting how, I mean, it makes perfect sense why it would change, and why you, especially if you're traveling with the kids. Like if it was just you and your wife going on a trip.
Oh, totally different. I'd be totally amped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it would be a different experience, right? So maybe that's the trick for you for the next year and a half, is to plan a trip for just the two of you to go and have 4 days somewhere. I don't know how practical that is.
I don't know how practical that is either. But one of these days, we've talked about it. It's like drop the kids off in Hawaii, and then we're going to go to Tokyo for 3 nights. It'll be a whiplash trip, but it'll be nice, But
where you don't have to like, and then having the freedom is a little more of a benefit, because it's like, oh, we don't want the strictures of the routine, but right now you need the routine because of the demands of life. Oh,
yeah. I don't want to make it sound like I'm complaining about the routine. I'm complaining about the routine for my mental health. Or like my mental experience even. My mental health is improved by the routine because everyone else around me is much better if we stick to the routine,
Exactly.
If we deviate from the routine, things just are not nearly as fun.
It's because you have these little biologic creatures that are very much just eating and pooping machines for a while, right?
Yeah, and they really just want your attention. They don't care where they are.
Yeah.
You going somewhere you want to go to doesn't matter to them at all.
And
they take from your experience and the new location. But again, add 5 years on this, it'll totally be different. They'll be out and exploring, and their perspectives will be totally different. So all this stuff that like, it's just the season, man. It's just the season.
It's just season.
So there's one other question here that popped out at me. I don't know. This is one that I don't know my answer to. What kept you sane?
Yeah, that one jumped out at me as well. One, these conversations that we have every so often, it's a big help. Definitely helped me on that. And Dan, thank you for being party to it, and thank you for anybody who listened along and got something out of it. Honestly, I think being disconnected from a lot of media and social media I followed in years prior. I disconnected from a good chunk of it. Remember I said I want to circle back to something. You said something about the algorithm. This is part of that.
Okay.
But being disconnected from certain feeds that I had in years prior was a big help, because it was an election year, and I kind of just at the beginning of the year said I'm just gonna really restrict
this one out.
really restrict my media diet, and because not that I mean it's just there's a lot of noise and like people yelling at each other, and it's not productive. You start to, whether you want to or not, you start to have emotions and feel these things about these things that by and large oftentimes don't practically affect you, that you have no control over, that even though these things are being said aren't ever going to come to fruition because it's their campaign talk that you can't actually get done. So why be anxious about, and bring tomorrow's worry forward to today about things that might not ever happen? 80% of it's not going to happen. Why spend so much time worrying about it? So I think at the beginning, and this started a couple years ago for me, was really limiting and constricting that diet to the things that are a well-curated experience for me. And so my question for you was, when you talk about, before I go on to that, what about you? Like, is there anything that you said that you would say it helped keep you sane? Things that you did that improved your mental ability to cope with it this year?
Yeah, I'm going to copy your answer and say these conversations. Having a team helps. I'm not completely alone anymore. And then, I mean, this started in Jan of 23, but I have an executive coach, and that's been just a absolute game changer for my
having
mental health and
a literal person there to help keep you sane has helped keep you sane in a way.
Yeah.
Having a resource dedicated to
dedicated to asking me hard questions and making sure that I see myself, and making sure that I'm asking myself the right questions. I think one of his magical superpowers is like being, I think some people want, coaches or therapists or whatever to like ask them the hard questions. My coach has a way of making those questions get sourced from within.
It gets you thinking about it, and gets you to ask incepts the question, so to speak.
Incepts the question. That's a good way of putting it.
They're doing a good job of incepting the question. So, is there an example of a hard question or a good question that you can share? I'm curious, like an example of something that was impactful for you. And if you can't share or don't want to share, I also understand.
That might be a hard one to come up with right now.
That's fair. Once it leaps to your mind, we'll circle back.
If it comes back, we can circle back. But the other skill that I think he has is forcing me to reframe things. And sometimes he'll do the reframing for me. Like, is this valid? Reframing, asking questions of my thoughts. Is this a valid thought? Is this an accurate thought? If you're at all familiar with CPT, I think he takes his skill sets from lots of different things, but having studied a little bit of CBT years ago, it's one thing to know something, and it's another thing to be able to practice it, right? And so to be able to examine your own thoughts, that's like Buddha level something, right? I think it takes a friend, mentor, coach, therapist, something, to sometimes shine the light at the bullshit that we manufacture in our own heads.
Sure as hell does. Along those lines, I think one thing that, like, one area that helped me in that way was a book you recommended, the book How to Know a Person. By now, I'm just all of a sudden blanking on the name.
David Brooks.
Yes, David Brooks. Thank you. A lot of discussion around trying to see that thought process in others, but also within yourself. I took out of that, and I think that's something I've gotten better at over the years, is separating myself from my thoughts and realizing those are two different entities. And but you can't. It's hard to consistently always do it, and you can still get wrapped up. But being able to,
For sure,
every once in a while, just grab yourself and pull yourself out of the depths and slap yourself across the face is helpful.
Yeah, or like, I feel like sometimes this internal dialogue can just run amok. But then you can ask it questions too, right? Like you can, what's the old, like, there's a Buddhist sort of, or maybe it's Hindu, the rider and the elephant.
That sounds so familiar, but I can't.
I know. I'm gonna have to like look it up in order to explain it to the audience. Who, it's worth getting right though.
Go for it.
The rider and the elephant. So the elephant is the emotional side, right? It's just this big, hunking animal who has a mind of its own and can wander off and not take direction sometimes. And then you've got the rider, who's like the more rational or maybe analytical side, who can supply direction to the elephant. Mm-hmm. And but there's I think the reason why the imagery or the analogy works is because the rider might have all of the correct answers. That does not necessarily mean that the elephant is always going to be obedient. Mm-hmm. But realizing that there are these two entities and realizing that you are and can be the rider, you don't necessarily have to sink into just being the elephant and being complacent or non-participatory in the elephant's wanderings. Is also helpful. Some of us need permission or empowerment sometimes.
Yeah, I think those are good lessons, and I think that's a good parable overall. It reminds me a lot of Tim Urban's Chaos Monkey.
Yeah.
Which I'll put the link to that maybe in the notes for the YouTube audience. There's a good TED Talk he did about that very thing, with some lovely little graphics as well. Anyway, I don't want to belabor that. No, I think controlling, you can't control yourself, but being able to realize that your thoughts, but being able to separate those two things and realize there's two separate entities that are making up your consciousness and that are part of your worldview and how you construct your worldview, and that your worldview itself is through a lens that is constructed, that is different from my lens, is different from your lens, is different from everybody else's lens. We might look at the same thing and see way different things because of what we expect to see or what we don't expect to see, or what we're what our biases are, or what we want even to see in some ways. Like we want to see something, so we see them that way. And so
we lie to ourselves.
Yeah,
your rider might see the world in a different way than your elephant. It doesn't even need to be.
Yeah.
There's did you know, or have you heard of this book? The author is Ethan Kross. He's out of University of Michigan. The book is called Chatter.
I've not heard of it. No.
My brother gifted it to me a while back. And if this segment of this discussion really strikes a chord or something with you, like, read the book. I think it's one of the books that I don't know, if you find Ethan on a good 2-hour-long podcast, that's probably going to get you the 80-20. But yeah, it's about this internal dialogue, the power of that internal dialogue, and the power you have over that internal dialogue is how I would summarize it if I had only one sentence.
Interesting. That was Chatter, you said?
I think so. I think that's what it's called.
Okay, I might give that one a check that one out.
Yeah,
you usually have.
I'd recommend finding him on a podcast or something, just listening to him talk about his research. Because the book is, it's filled with stories to sort of pound the message home. But if you just I don't know, get the message. You can, you're already familiar enough with the topic. It's not like,
so one of the things that can, drive that internal dialogue and chatter is the things you put across it, right? Like across your incoming sensors and like what you're opening your experience up to information wise. So circling back finally to how you get your information on, and how you found this tweet. You said the algorithm served it to you. So you're the type of person that actually goes and surfs through the For You tab on various apps then.
Twitter. Yeah.
On Twitter specifically, rather than just the following.
Yeah, I go back and forth.
See, I'm almost exclusively just following.
Wow. I mean, I can't blame you now.
Yeah.
4 years ago, algorithm was awesome for me. I learned a ton. Now it's much more inflammatory.
That's fair.
It's much less useful, is my position.
I feel like I've always been defaulted to the wanting to just stick to the following because I didn't want useless ads or useless, like I didn't want to be.
You still get ads, right?
Yeah, not ads isn't the right word because you're still getting ads. I didn't want to be
the junk mail, if you will.
Yeah, junk mail would be like, I didn't want to be subverted in my lines of thinking. It's like I'll find the people that I want to listen to and go with that, which I guess maybe did restrict me from having like finding certain things as quickly as others or being late on certain things or never finding certain things. But man, I don't know. I think I would have gone insane otherwise. I don't know.
I think now that I think the algorithm is much more junk and inflammatory and clickbaity and FUD, I am finding I have to be very careful about like what I tap into because I'm teaching the algorithm more and I'm just getting more junk if I, I'll admit though, once it's there, it's real tempting to like, oh, I'll watch that video. And then it's, it's terrible. It's this evil little loop. Going back to like the internal dialogue, it's like you were saying like your environment and the things that you bring in affect your internal dialogue. Well, it's like your internal dialogue can affect all the stuff on the outside world too, right? Like if your internal dialogue is I'm a failure or you're worthless or whatever, right? If it's all negative, then I think you begin to manifest that in the world, which is a very dangerous place. I think it's a very dangerous place to go, which is why either quieting or channeling this internal dialogue in a more positive direction is like so essential to getting what you want out of life.
Yeah, it absolutely you can absolutely manifest. I mean, because when you do it, then you also in some de facto way give yourself permission to let it happen. And
then you're not surprised. Oh, yeah, you're not surprised. This is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and you just say, oh, well, that's out of my control, and you don't fight.
Well, that's me. That's the way it's always been.
Yeah. Yes, that happens to me from time to time. I have to say, it's something I have to struggle to fight against personally.
I think most people do. Well, I mean, right? I think. Most people need to, whether they do or don't is different.
Yeah. Anyway.
Human. Aren't these brains awesome and also just really hard?
Yeah. And we just keep going through, like you said, the right thing. It's a loop. We just keep going through these loops in our pulling this information and interacting with it, digesting it, acting upon it. And when you let it get corrupted, or when you let it get corrupted with the idea of how it should go through that, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But yeah, our brains are just insane.
Okay, let's pick one more question here.
Let's do it. All right, so we want to tackle another question. What else on this list piqued your interest?
What piqued my interest? The answer to that one was question 22. Did you fall in love this year?
Interesting. I kind of wrote that one off as I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, I feel like it's a complicated answer, and the only way to like put it into words removes all that complicatedness, and makes it more cliche. I fall in love with my kids every day. They also drive me crazy. Mm-hmm. But I fall in love with them every day. And then seeing my wife be a mother, that's like just, I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure there are writers and people who've put it better than I ever will be able to. But that question made me think of those things.
It's
Thanks.
absolutely lovely.
Like I said, it feels cliched. It feels kind of weird to say, but like,
No, but
that's
I think
exactly where my mind went with that question.
I think that makes sense that jumps out to you being. I think parenthood drives that for people in a lot of ways.
I also like questions 29 and 30. Like, what did you want and get? What did you want
I was
and
looking at
not
those.
get?
I was looking at those as well.
I do not know my answers.
And that bugs me about myself.
Well,
And that's one thing I was like, there's a number of things on this list that I don't have answers for, and that it annoys me furiously. And
why the annoyance?
because why don't I have an answer for that? Like if I were to ask myself the same question going forward into next year,
So your
I don't know that I have an answer.
frustration with it is a question of has this year been too much stasis?
Yes. And
Same. Yeah.
yes, like stasis, not a lack of progress. I don't feel like is the right word, but like there's not been anything that I've been
Punctuation.
yeah, or yeah, like there's not anything like if I'm looking into next year and I say, oh, what is it that I want out of it? I don't know what that looks like. And that's okay, I guess. Like I don't, you don't need to have a plan or say this is how everything's going to go. But at the same time, I don't know. Like what do I want to get out of it?
My word for this episode is punctuation. I think that's what I've learned. Without the punctuation, without the highs and the lows, we forget.
Mm-hmm.
And if we forget, time disappears. And if time disappears, that's the only resource that you have, technically. Like you can make more money, you can make less money. You can't make more time. You can only spend it. Once it's spent, it's gone forever. Am I being too woo-woo with my drawing connections there?
I am reminded of the Tao Te Ching for some reason.
Perfect. Bring me
that
in.
maybe we need to look at Wu Wei a little bit more closely in the way of the water and the lack of punctuation, in that it's the flow and the continuous movement and the change that you experience without knowing, without that punctuation, as you put it.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
think
where my mind went
was
when you said that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great connection. I think my mind went straight up Western mind, right? Like, blow them up or, you didn't live. Versus like Eastern philosophy, which is more like you got to slow down in order to appreciate the all.
I think that's yes. And even when things aren't changing, you don't have those punctuations. Like you can still take a measure and say this is where we are, and where we've been. But it I don't know. It's
then I would say that the punctuation is a different kind of punctuation. Then it is the sitting with nothing to reflect. That could be in the that's going to form different ways for different people, right? Some people might write a journal, other people might meditate, whatever. But it's creating the space and time for your mind to appreciate the things that are not being reflected upon or appreciated or seen, even.
Yeah. So then, is it okay to look into then the future and say, what is it you want out of it, or what is it that you want to get, and say, I want to get what where the river is going to take me. I want to continue the float down the stream and see where I go, but I don't know. It feels rudderless, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like the rudder. Like, I don't like that. I don't like being a passenger to life. But isn't this the yin and yang of it all, though, right? Like, there are times where it's like you've got to be okay with the fact that you became things happened to you. You didn't really have choice or control. You were a passenger to something, and you are here now. Versus also being an active participant and trying to drive and manifest and be
to you versus through you, in a way.
Yeah, just makes me want to read more Eastern philosophy and get more confused.
Interesting anecdote from, not I should say anecdote necessarily, but little piece of information from that Robert Brooks book, How to Know a Person, was looking at a study of children looking at pictures from children from traditionally Eastern philosophy type countries versus Western philosophy type countries, where you have more of an individualistic mindset in the West and more of a collectivist mindset in the East. And they would show children a picture of a mom, a dad, and a kid. And the Western children would put the mom and the dad together because they go together, whereas the children from the East put the mom and the kid together because the mom takes care of the kid. And they would show him a picture of a cow, a chicken, and grass, and say which of these go together. And the Western kids would put the chicken and the cow together because they're the same category of animal, and the Eastern kids would put the cow and the grass together because the cow eats the grass. It's a relationship versus categorical kind of mindset that's different in the way we think about things. And I think it is interesting to want to explore more. I'm with you if you want to go down that path.
There was a book I started, and I have since left, and I'll definitely be coming back to it. It's like The Weirdest People or something like that. And weird is an acronym, Western individualistic something.
Okay.
And I remember one anecdote out of that book was that the Eastern or Asian cultures, there was some sort of study that they were doing and watching the eye patterns when putting a novel picture in front of them. And the Asian participants scanned more of the picture versus us Westerners or weird people would find the focus point, not focal, but focus, the focus of the painting or picture or whatever it was, and really focus on that rather than taking in the whole. I don't know what to do with that information, but I thought it was an interesting contrast.
Wait, repeat the last part. So they're focusing on what?
Whatever the think of any picture. There's usually
Yeah.
a subject or a
Yeah.
focus point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Us weird people find it, focus on it.
Yes.
Eastern populations take it all in.
Yes, exactly. We're in the minority here in like our way of thinking. And this is that we're looking for the causal center of everything rather than, which is interesting if you think about Asian art versus European art. You very much see that in the way that they're. Wow, I need to go back to the MFA Houston and check out this exhibit now with that in mind. But their landscapes are very detailed, but they lack that. They lack that central focal point of like your eye coming to this one thing. It's much more of an experience, like wallpaper almost versus a painting. It's like, which is not the right word, but
no, but I think that is a decent analogy for how we might experience it, right? Like I mean, it was just the other day I saw this. It was a big painting of like the Great Wall. But see that therein lies my trying to describe what it was, but it was much more than that, right? It was this huge sprawling landscape with lots of different things to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. Was there a subject? I think that's arguable, but if I'm describing it to someone, I'm going to say it was a painting of the Great Wall, but it definitely was not it was a good example of the difference between.
That's well said.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 2025, let's dig into some Eastern philosophy at some point, I think. Have you ever read the Tao Te Ching?
I listened to it once.
Yeah, it's not like
it's not long.
No, it's not much. I was surprised how short it was.
Yeah, it's not like picking up the Bible or something.
No, it's very brief, and it's not brief is not the right word, but it's
sparse.
It's sparse. Like, it's very well edited is maybe the way I would say. It's edited onto the core of each idea in a way to really just convey the meme of it.
Yeah, which I mean, I think therein lies some of the difficulty with it.
Mm-hmm.
It would almost be cool to have like a and I'm sure it exists, like a companion book, or a companion for each phrase. It's not even passages, really. It's like these one sentence, one liners.
They're aphorisms. They're essentially aphorisms, right?
Yeah.
Like governing a people is like cooking a fish, easy to overdo it.
Well,
it's stuff like that. They're
Do you think the people in charge now should be going back in their history and taking lessons? We don't need to go there.
maybe. Well, it's funny. What U.S. president quoted that?
Oh. Would that be like a Teddy Roosevelt thing?
More recent than that.
More recent.
Not that
than
recent, but
not that recent.
well, I don't know. Not since before this millennia. How's that? Before the turn of the millennia.
I mean, it seems like something Reagan would say.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, definitely
Okay.
Reagan.
Despite blowing the budget up.
Cribbing on. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know why I know that Reagan quoted that, but he did.
Interesting. Wasn't he called the great communicator? I think that
He was.
probably his highest level skill. Yeah. 2025. It's inbound and coming.
Yes.
We've talked about manifesting. We've talked about a little bit of a review of the year that we just had and our relationship with it. Well, are there any comments or thoughts that you'd like to put out into the world to try to manifest in this next year?
I think 2025 needs, for me, that I want to manifest in the world. Actually, now I got to rethink that. I think in 2025, I would like, if I could, I would manifest the idea of that the way you experience the world and the way you see the world is through a lens of your own that nobody else shares. And that rather than making as many statements, we should try to ask a few more questions next year.
You using the royal we there?
Yes, as a people. Just like, I think we've gotten very good about making a lot of brash statements everywhere. And I would like to just spend 2025 asking a lot of questions and trying to learn more about
How the hell did we get here?
and to also understand the, I think, views outside of my own in a more deep and meaningful way.
How are you going to find at least approximations of answers to some of these questions?
I mean, a lot of it's just conversing with people and listening to. I am in a fortunate situation where I get exposed to people from around the world on a regular basis. So I have the good fortune of being able to go and ask somebody from China what they think of this. Or I was just this morning chatting with my buddy from Romania about the election result that they just annulled there this morning.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what's your take and how does this make you feel? Rather than, trying to say, oh, well, this seems terrible. And aren't you glad to be here in America? I just asked, rather than saying anything, I just asked questions. And I had a very good exchange with him. Rather than trying to project my own feelings into the situation, just letting the situation wash over me. Letting his relationship with the situation wash over me rather than trying to be part of it, just being around it, present for it.
Present.
I think I would like to manifest more of that into the world because I think there's a lot of miscommunication that we could probably do best to avoid, that we could avoid rather, but this is timeless advice. You could say that any year, right?
Yeah, that's the trouble.
Right.
Which doesn't negate what you're trying to say or do here. I think it's one of those like, oh, it's a constant practice. Like you never stop.
And yeah,
there is no destination.
There is no destination. It's all the endless river.
It's a practice. Yeah.
It's the journey. How about you, Dan? What would you manifest into the being of 2025, into the world in 2025?
Well, I guess I really like where you took it. You were taking over the torch of Jim O'Shaughnessy there and trying to incept everyone.
Yes.
I was thinking a little bit more internally, just to myself. And that's not to be selfish. It was more like, what practicable change am I going to try to make upon myself, right? And I could go into like tactical things. I think I need better time management, and little other adjustments like that I think are achievable. I don't know if I'm going to express this well or not, but quality of presence is something that I would like to change in 2025.
I love that so much. That phrase, if it means what I think it means.
Now's your time to ask questions rather than...
What do you mean by that, please?
I'm still exploring it, so I don't know if my definition is like fully fleshed out yet, but I think there's a lot of time that I give to different aspects of my life that is at 40% or 60% rather than 100. And I think this leads to a feeling of I don't have enough time, or the time that I have is unfulfilling. My cup isn't filled by XYZ. And it's largely because it's like I didn't even apply myself. My quality of being there in that particular moment was too low. Maybe part distraction, maybe subconscious was cooking a little hard and moved into consciousness, and I wasn't there anymore. I don't know. There's a lot to think about right now. So a little something along those lines. But I think it's easy to say like, oh, just be present or try to be more present. But I think, I don't know. I like this aspect of quality. I think maybe that illuminates it more for me.
Yeah, I think, because like, being present is one thing, but if it sucks being present, sometimes there's things when you're being present for, it's like, this just sucks to begin with.
How is that training? You don't have to go there.
Oh boy. Case in point. Yes, there's just certain things in life that you can force yourself to be present and attentive for, and even then, like the quality of that presence is that's why I liked what you said. Repeat the phrase one more time for me. The
quality of presence.
Quality of presence. Yeah.
I think a sub question to that, to kind of picking it back off of what you were thinking a little bit about, is say that you are in a thing and you don't care about your presence.
Mm-hmm.
You'd rather just not be there.
Yeah, I think that's where I was trying to come to. Is like it's like the editing. Like I don't want to talk about the quality of the presence, but it's like it's the where I'm spending the time on the things that I want to be present for. Right, editing that.
So is this saying no to more things?
Yeah, and clearing
exercising
up.
Executive power over things that perhaps you thought you didn't control.
Mm-hmm.
But you could try. I think this part is the scary part, especially if it's saying no to
How do you manifest
employers.
control over those things?
Yeah.
Or how do you not manifest, but exert or
even lobby?
Yeah.
Like it might not be a binary yes
influence.
Or no. It might,
Influence. Influence maybe is the right word. Because you're not going to control it, but maybe you can influence it. I think that's
you can always influence how you feel about a thing.
That's true.
There's a Stoic Aurelius kind of thing there.
Mm-hmm. Or you can choose not to feel anything about something as well, which is kind of, I guess, influence the way you feel about it. Well, maybe not. I don't know. That's not true. No, that's you can't do that. We'd like to think we could, and I think a lot of people try.
Yeah. You can try.
You can always try, but I don't think you can.
I think deep down, everyone's grading everything.
We are comparing everything by nature. That's how our models work, of comparing, that thing we start our eyes see to our model of what it is in our head. And, that thing's a cup, that thing's a lamp, that thing's a computer, that's a good looking human, that's a bad looking human. It just,
that's exhausting.
We like to constantly compare. I wonder if we had if we knew somebody of a more Eastern mindset, if they would say the same thing, if that thought process works from somebody who's been brought up with perhaps a different line of thought.
Yeah, be a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't,
Yeah.
Yeah, we grew up in the same town. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, it's like you edge closer and closer to nihilism, right? Like this whole, be present but non-judgmental thing is like there's a darker side to it. It's the yin and yang all the way down. But yeah, way out over my skis.
I mean, we are built to we are psychologically built to want to judge everything. That's why we like competition shows here in the United States, or things like the Olympics, or everything's meant to be compared to something else. It's nothing stands alone. There you go.
Yeah.
Take something. We need to learn how to just take things and frame them by themselves for what they are, and not have to compare everything to everything else.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things, it's like this thing slaps me in the face from time to time. I like to complain.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I think it's funny, mostly. I feel the way my relationship with it is I'm pointing out absurdities or stupidities, or can you freaking believe that this is a thing in our world, or this is how people behave?
Yeah.
However, sometimes it comes out of my mouth and I think it stresses those around me out. Like I'm complaining and that's it. That's their only experience of it. And then I watched, it was one evening on the YouTube algorithm again, served me up this video of Jerry Seinfeld and like two other guys in this garage, and it's car talk, totally up my alley. And it's Seinfeld, who is like a professional complainer. Mm-hmm. And in the episode, like he's just going at it, and he's pointing, and they're laughing. It's all joyous laughter with them, and that's how. Anyway, I think
that comes because those people were on the same loop. They were experiencing the same loop as him. They were experiencing, it's like Hofstadter talking about when people are communicating, they are basically writing the same loops and waves together. And why it works for him in that situation is they're all of the mindset, and they're all in that channel looking to expect a joke. They are coming from the expectation of it, and it's not a surprise to them.
So because it's Seinfeld, it's already influencing everyone else's relationship with
and
what's
they're
coming.
standing there with a camera on their face saying, "Hey, we're going to tell some jokes."
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go back in time. There was a place I worked, and this style of like complaining about absurdities and stupidities was very alive and well. It was happening every single day. Some of it is probably illegal in a workplace or something. You know what I mean? Like, but there were a certain amount of people that were exacerbated by it, right? Just like, can you believe that's what was said? And another portion of us were like, that's hilarious. We had a great time in the morning meeting because we all were smiling and laughing at the absurdities. And then we broke off and went back to our desks and did work. I don't know what to, I enjoyed that. I didn't.
There
what does that say about me?
We have those conversations as managers about employees.
Yeah.
Where, well, no, yeah, like
mind you, no one in the room was I shouldn't say no one in the room was attacked, but this was throwing.
I don't know. I guess I would have to hear an example of the type of complaints, and like I don't think it depends upon the situation. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. This wasn't a personal shakedown or anything like that. It was like, it was commenting on the world or maybe a particular company. Just like,
everybody gets touchy about things, right? I don't know.
There are those, yeah.
Is it like some people are just joyless?
It's true. I'd much rather laugh at all the things that are crazy.
Yeah.
So my wife sent me this one video from this girl on Instagram. I think it's the Daily Tay. And I subsequently watched like 3 more of her videos, and they are hilarious. I think maybe she's like I only watched 3 or 4 videos. Maybe she's like a from a subject matter standpoint a one-hit wonder. I don't know, but I really enjoyed two of the videos that I watched, and one of them was like, I forget the actual topic. Like she gets on and is like, I'm gonna point out an absurdity and laugh about it or whatever, something like that, right? And then it cuts to her in this wig and glasses outfit thing, and she's like, this joke was about me, and and then it cuts back to her and she's like, oh no, it's not about you. I was just trying to be funny and bring joy to the world. And then it cuts back to her, she's like, I feel seen, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, that might be, anytime you can complain about something, there's somebody who can have the opposite viewpoint of like, oh, this thing's okay, right? So if you're making a sarcastic comment that's meant as a joke and kind of a complaint about it, somebody might be like, I think that's just fine. Like it's because I don't know, it comes into your personal biases, right? Of what is
in your personal experience and your personal traumas,
Yeah.
all the things, right?
Yeah.
Like it's probably easy for me to joke about a particular subject because I've never experienced it before. And then someone who has is like, you asshole. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
maybe. Yeah.
Yep. Everybody's an asshole.
Everybody. Well, everybody's
an asshole.
Yeah. All right, Sean, we got to wrap
On
this
that
thing
note,
up.
we'll catch you assholes next time.
Yes.
Everybody have a good one.
Bring your bidets.